Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in from around the world as we dive in with another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. If you're new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And today is so exciting for so many reasons. Number one, it's February, so it's our entire month solely dedicated to amazing women in science and exploration. If you've been joining us, I think we've done 25 broadcasts to date. We've got 25 more to come. It has been a wild ride, and everything that we do is on our YouTube channel. So if you want to hear from some of the coolest people on planet Earth, go there and check that out. Now, today, too, we are diving back in with our ECOP series. So the Early Career Ocean Professional series has been so much fun in conjunction with the team at the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition. We have featured plastic pollution experts. We featured conservationists. We featured ocean advocates. It has been an incredible time, and you can check them all out here. But today, we are bringing in a person on a topic that we have never actually featured in our 3,000 plus broadcast history at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and that is freediving. If you had the chance to check out the amazing picture that Simona, joining us today, shared as a sort of backdrop to this broadcast, it's one of the coolest images we've ever featured. Check it out, and you're going to see a whole bunch more amazing pictures of what freediving looks like in just a minute. But I'm so excited to take you literally on a deep dive to see what this world is like. And without further ado, I'm going to stop talking. No one's here for me. Simona, thank you so much for joining us live on the last day of your amazing time in Dominica before you head back for some more training. It's so nice to have you on today. This is great.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. I'm very excited. To be here. So, the topic of my talk today is who do you want to be? So, it's very dear to me, really. I hope that I can share my love for freediving and my love for who I want to be, who I've decided to be. And I hope that you'll be inspired to chase your dreams. So who am I? So my name is Simona. I'm a professional freediver or a real life mermaid. Did you know that there's been more people in space than people at 300 feet below the sea level? When I was a child your age, I really dreamt of becoming an astronaut and navigating in space and exploring the space. But something happened, and when I was 36 years old, I decided instead to become a professional freediver, diving to the depths of 91 meters below the sea level. That's 300 feet below sea level. I just want to run a little exercise with me. It's just a little breathwork exercise. So will you hold your breath with me? So I want you to take the right hand and put it on your chest, and the left hand and put it on your belly. So I want you to close your eyes and breathe in and feel the belly expand, and breathe out and feel the belly relax. I want you to repeat this a couple more times. So breathe in and feeling the belly expand, and breathe out. And again, in and out. And at the next inhale, I want you to hold your breath just until you want to breathe. And then I want you to hold it for just a little longer. Yeah? So let's inhale. And you can hold your breath. You can hold your breath when I keep on talking and presenting. How do you feel? Just noting your sensation. Well, this is what I do. I just like to hold my breath while I dive underwater. And will you try and hold your breath with me as I descend to 300 feet below the sea level? So this is me. It's my dive at the Freediving World Championship in Roatan. That was last August in Honduras. And I'm preparing for a dive at 91 meters. It's with the monofin. So it's one single big fin that you'll see in just a moment. And here I'm taking my last breath as I prepare to enter the water.
Okay,
You can
and
start holding
Simona
your
has
breath
begun
again.
her descent. Beautiful entry into the water there.
And
Very
I
comfortable
turn and I
position.
dive down. And I'm finning down to beat the buoyancy of the water that pushes me to the surface. 20 meters and the air in my lungs shrinks. And by the time I'm at 35 meters, my lungs are so small that I start sinking at the depth of the sea.
Now she's going into those smaller kicks a little bit.
You're gonna see it in a second. I'm gonna bring my arms down, and that's the free fall phase. That's where I don't move, and yet I keep on falling to the bottom of the sea. I relax every muscle, as if I hold any tension, I consume more oxygen. Thoughts consume oxygen too, so I'm just letting go of my thoughts of what's happening next, of what's happening tomorrow, and I just concentrate on what I have to do now. I'm fully in the moment. It's really the state of flow. Are you still holding your breath? It's 1 minute and 20 seconds. But I still have to go all the way to 90 meters and then come back. Soon I'm finally at the bottom. Soon I'll be finally turning, grabbing my tag. There I go. That's my tag, and I prepare to come up. I have 91 meters to go. That's about 23 floors of a skyscraper to dive up on a single breath. I smile because if I do so, my body releases any tension. I keep on smiling because if I do so, my body thinks I am safe. In a while, I'll be meeting my safeties. That's run at 40 meters. My safety come down on a single breath hold as well, and they're coming to check if I'm safe. Gonna meet them soon. Are you still holding your breath? It's 2 minutes and 27 seconds, moving up and down. That's my safeties.
Okay, she is with the safeties.
So I'm very happy to see them there.
You can see she's taking a glance at the
They're struggling to keep up
there.
with me because I'm very much faster with my monofin.
Very cute facial
That's
expressions.
the last very few meters. And there I am. I've completed my dive. 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
Grabbing nice and high.
And I resurface and I breathe again. That's my first breath. It's like being born again and again and again. Every time I dive, I'm allowed a new life. Well, the first time I took my first breath of air, I was born in Genova. That's a little harbor town in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea in the north of Italy, in Europe. I've always loved the sea, and my mom taught me how to swim at the age of 3. And when I was 10 years old, I picked up sailing as a sport in the Med Sea. Well, that's my little boat. It's a 420 boat. I've been sailing in the best and the worst days of my life as a teenage. And the sea really taught me so much, like from humility, discipline, and yet so much freedom and fun. And I remember looking at the horizon on my small sailboat being swept by the wind was just beyond empowering and liberating. And I continued to daydream, being led by the emotions that the water and the wind would bring me. Then, well, something happened. Time passed and I suddenly grew up. Life brought me to university, far, far away from the sea. I went to Switzerland for studies, and then in Paris, and then Tokyo. And then I moved to London for work. I kind of forgot about my childhood dreams, and the sea seemed kind of a distant memory. I did many of the things that adults do, like finding a job and buying a house and starting an exciting business. I'm an architect, remember? So this is one of our spaces in London. And as much as I enjoyed my life in London, at some point something seemed kind of lost. I couldn't really pinpoint what it was, but it was that little spark of magic, those emotions that were pushing me forward as a child. So I started traveling, and during my vacation, I was in search of something, but I didn't quite know what it was. I visited many places. I had many different experiences. I volunteered for some months in a cacao and vanilla farm in the deep jungle in Belize, planting coconut trees and pineapples. And I traveled to Guatemala to meet some shaman. But my life really didn't change planting coconuts in Belize, no meeting shamans in Guatemala. My life changed in January in the morning in 2018. And I had left the Philippines on yet another trip. And I meant to go hiking in the north, but then a hurricane came and changed my plans. So I took a flight to the south, and there I met someone who suggested that I really go to Camiguin, which is a tiny little island with 9 volcanoes and thermal waters, and she really, really recommended that I go to a place called Kurma. I took a ferry boat, and I arrived to Kurma. And to my surprise, it was a freediving center. So the instructor there, they asked me if I wanted to do a freediving course, of course. And I replied, actually, no, it's a sport for crazy people. And like my ears always hurt when I tried to dive. So it wasn't really for me. It's funny. And the instructor, well, he explained that all I needed to do for my ears not to hurt was to equalize my ear before I felt any pain. So I was curious and I asked what's equalization. And in short, he replied that I had to just pinch my nose and blow air into the ears until they popped open. So I did my first dive and I went to -6 meters on a single breath. That was my first free dive ever, and I was so happy. Well, when I surfaced, my world had changed. The emotions I felt there on that dive were the same emotions that I feel now when I'm diving to 91 meters, that fuel my passion for growth, for depth, and for self-improvement. Well, the years that followed were led by chasing emotions and my dreams. And the more water gave me emotions, the more I dreamt of water in return. The daydreams gave room to more detailed plans, which led to taking actions until my dream became my reality. Well, I went back to London from Philippines and I looked for the first freediving course. It was April 15 and the water was at 7 degrees Celsius and the planes were flying low above to land at Heathrow Airport. Well, time passed, and in 2019, in November, I left for a month to volunteer on a scientific research project in Nosy Bay. That's a small island in Madagascar. And I was working for the Madagascar Whale Shark Project. It was a beautiful month filled with wild encounters underwater. I swam with dolphins, with whale sharks, with turtles, with mobile rays, all in a while just doing research and contributing to scientific purposes. Well, then I got back to London and all I could think of was how to get back to the sea. However, there was COVID. COVID just came in 2020 and it was massive lockdown and I was stuck in my apartment for 3 months. And after the first lockdown, all I could dream of was being in the sea. So I planned to spend the summer in Nice in the south of France so that I could train free diving. I started working remotely, and there in Nice, I found myself diving with some of the deepest divers in the world. And as a beginner in the sport, I was beyond inspired. And I quickly reached a depth of 52 meters. That's kind of 170 feet below the sea level. So I dive to 52 meters. Soon you'll see a little dot coming. That's me, close to the line. That's me free falling to 52 meters. See how dark it is out there? I look a little clumsy. Just to look back, not such a smooth turn. But hey, it was my first time diving to such a big depth. Well, then it was 2021, and a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to join her in Dahab in Egypt. Dahab is a very dusty village in the desert with camels and palm trees, and it sits right on the Red Sea, which is filled with colorful corals and beautiful fish. So I went with the intention of staying just 2 weeks, but then another lockdown came due to COVID, and I was stuck in Egypt for 6 months. Well, that's when I started training in free diving every day. I quickly improved and found myself diving down to incredible depth. I did 60 meters and then 70 meters. That's kind of 210 feet below the sea level. Well, then they announced the competition in Dahab Blue Hole. And I did my first competition where I won the second place overall. I was beyond stoked. I was addicted and nothing could stop me. So, well, they announced another competition in Sharm el-Sheikh in May and then in November. And there I did my first national records at depths of 69, of 71, and 74 meters. Well, then a year went by of training and enjoying the depth of the sea. And I got a call from the coach of the Italian national team, and he was inviting me to join the Italian freediving team to participate in the World Championship in Kaş in Turkey. That was huge. I was beyond stoked. Well, that's really when all my dreams became real. Well, I was an athlete representing my own country at a World Championship. So I won the first place at the World Cup in Kaş in Turkey. That's where I was diving at 91 meters. And the same year, just a month after, I broke 2 free diving world records and I won 2 third place at the Italian Championship. That's in Lake Garda in Italy. That's a lake that goes as so dark, and it goes to 7 degrees water, so super cold and super dark. But I still made 2 world records. Well, my journey is kind of over there. But I really realized that I started to live fully only when I learned to hold my breath. But my advice to you is not really to take some fins and go free diving. My advice is to keep dreaming as you are doing now as a kid. My advice is to listen to the quiet whispers inside. And my advice is also to follow your intuition. And it's also to live your emotion fully. Well, in brief, my advice is to carve your own path and believe that you can be whoever you want to be. Having said this, if you have the chance to try free diving, I would really invite you to try it because it's very much fun. So if you want to be in touch, these are my details. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I have my own website. So yeah, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very, very much. That was a wild journey and so cool. And there's so much to unpack with all this, and we're going to dive in with Q&A in a minute. But I love that you emphasized the fact that you can start with anything. Like if you get the chance to do free diving, great, but follow what you're passionate about, follow what you're excited about. And you started this quite late. And that's something that I think is really important for our kids to hear, because when I grew up, if I thought about scientists and explorers of all kinds, I was like, oh, they started that when they were 5. They did all the necessary steps. They did a one-track path. And that is not at all the case. And this is something that we keep hearing about, whether it's astronauts or free divers. Like, you can start at any point. You can dive. You can dive. I'm so used to saying you can dive in, which is much more literal with you. But it's you've had this incredible journey. You got the chance to meet amazing people, go to incredible places, achieve these amazing things. Having started at something quite late, which is it's magnificent. So thank you for that very inspiring story. That was a ton of fun. Oh.
Thank you. Yes.
So we're going to dive in with questions now. Always my favorite part of the thing. We've been getting some great email questions over the time. One is, so you highlighted you have a world record in this, and so 91 meters we kept featuring. Has anyone gone to 100 meters? Is this like the holy grail of where people want to go with free diving? Like,
yes.
Yes,
there is an Italian girl actually, and she holds the absolute world record at 123 meters.
Wow.
So you see that there's different world records. There's lake world records and there's sea world records. There's under ice world records. There's all sorts of world records. So there's different disciplines, and each one of us tries to master what they can, what they like, what they enjoy. But it's never too late to start. And of course, Alessia Zacchini, who's a world record holder, she's been doing that for her whole life. So she's very deep, very, very deep. But it's, we have to start somewhere. So, and I've progressed so much in just such a short time. And what's quite interesting is that freediving is a sport where male world records and female world records are not that far away from each other. So the guy's world record is 136 meters currently, and the female world record is 123. Yeah. They're quite close to each other. Yeah.
Well, and I'm curious too, speaking of all these individual people, you highlighted a few people that are sort of colleagues of yours in this field. How big a field is it? How many free divers are there? When you go to these competitions, are there like 1,000 people going in the water? Is it like 20, 30 at a given time? Yeah.
The last World Championship, it was 140 different athletes from 73 countries. So it's definitely a sport which is growing. It is, however, quite a niche sport. But on an amateur level, it's growing exponentially. There's people that start freediving for any possible reason, because they want to be mermaid and like wear a tail underwater, or because they want to do spear fishing, or just because they want to do it as a sport, or maybe they're just a little curious and they want to dive with sharks or whales or wildlife and animals underneath the sea. So there's tons of reason why like people start freediving, and there's a huge potential for the sport to expand.
Well, I hope, I know it's not in the upcoming Olympics, but I hope in a future Summer Olympics you get the chance to go and win a gold medal.
Thank you.
When that happens, that would be very exciting. You highlighted something near the beginning of your talk. You talked about this fact that you get to a point where you just start sinking, your lungs get smaller. Could you explain a little bit about that for our kids who might not know why that would be the case as you get lower and lower? So
there's a pressure underwater, which is it's increased, and that's the pressure of the water is bigger than the pressure of air, right? So at 1 meter, we have 10 bar of pressure. We have 1 bar of pressure. So at 20 meters, we have 2 bar of pressure. So what is 2 bar of pressure? Basically, every centimeter of your body, it means that it has 20 kilos like being pushed on. So when you're 100 meters, you have 2 kilos. So when you're 100 meters, you have 10 kilos for every single square centimeter of your body, right, pressing on you. So that means that your lungs are really compressed because of the increasing pressure. They're very, very compressed. And the volume of the lung become inversely proportional to the increase of pressure. Here we're talking about physics. I'm not sure if you're at that level yet, but however, that means that when you're within the first 10 meters underwater, like the water pushes you up by a force that is called Archimedes force.
Yeah.
Then, because of the diminishing of the volume of the lungs, when you're at 15 meters, like you're kind of neutral. So you get to 15 meters in your swimming suit and you just stay there. And below 50 meters, you start sinking, which is quite exhilarating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, not many people have experienced that. Like that's very cool to have that effect. Huh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. We talk about this in scuba diving, but we've never had it from a person who hasn't gone down with a tank to
Yes. Actually, in the US, in Texas, there is a swimming pool which is used by the NASA for underwater training for astronauts. So they go there and they put themselves in like scuba gear, of course, and they do neutral gravity training. So it's quite interesting that, remember what I was saying about the comparison between space and water? It's kind of the water is really like the closest environment to being out in space with like zero gravity, really.
We had Adele Luda. She trains astronauts on last week, and she talked about this. So the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, which everybody should look up, as it's one of the coolest places in the world. It's so neat, and that's what Simona's talking about. So check that out when you're done the broadcast, everyone. So okay, we're talking about lungs getting smaller and smaller. You've got to come all the way back up this line. Obviously, it seems like it could be something where there's potential danger. Are there risks to this? What are the risks to this? You highlighted these people that come and swim with you at the last little bit to help you get back to the top. So what's happening?
So actually, when you're down there, there's very little risks. So when you're down there, the pressure, because it's all physics again, and but the partial pressure of oxygen in your blood is actually very high when you're down there. So it's very easy to feel like you just want to stay there. There is also a process which is called narcosis, and it's basically some gases that we have in our body, they just increase because we're not breathing, we're not exchanging air. So they keep increasing within the body. And so it gives a feeling maybe that you're kind of drunk. It's that you really want to be at the bottom of the sea and that you don't want to breathe ever again. So sometimes that comes with like bigger depths. So I experienced that after 85 meters. And you need to be conscious that it's a dream. Like it's your mind that is like, you have two parts of that. You have the good part of the brain that is telling you, okay, just keep the focus and keep on swimming. And you have the other part of the brain that is like, wow, it's nice. It's so nice, right? So it's you have to shut down all the voices and really focus on what you have to do. And the best way to do it is by creating automatism. So we practice, we repeat until everything we can do it, even if we lost consciousness, right? Yeah. So the hardest part is actually the very few meters in the dive. That's where we have the safety divers. And that's because the partial pressure of oxygen becomes low again. And that's the only reason the only main risk for freediving is like loss of consciousness. So we call it blackout. It's a temporary loss of consciousness. I've had blackouts in my life. I'm still alive. I'm still here. Maybe not all there, but I'm still here. So yeah. It's the good thing is it's like when we have a blackout, the important thing is to remember is that our heart is still beating. So our blood is still circulating. Our brain still receive oxygen, even if it's very low. Okay. So we can last much longer. So if your heart stops, then you have a life tolerance of 1-2 minutes maximum. But if your heart keeps beating, well, then you can resist for up to 10 minutes.
I like that we're getting down to the nuance of like how long your heart is beating through the light left. You're like, oh yeah, I'm blacked out. I'm still alive. It's cool. I mean, it seems terrifying for someone who, I mean, the deepest I've ever gone is like 2 feet under the pool top. And if I had to, I could stand at the bottom and pop my head up. So does this happen to you when you're training or diving? You blacked out and then
it's always about when you're pushing your limits. And there's something that comes up. You know, I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't trained as an athlete. So I've always done lots of sport in my life, but there's something about maximum performance. Nutrition is number one thing. Rest, number two main thing. So performance is actually like, you can have a huge talent, but if you don't eat well, if you don't sleep well, you're not going to be able to perform. And there's very specific things that you need to eat before freediving. So if you're very stressed, if you slept really bad, if your heart rate is really like beating very fast because you can't calm down the nervous system, then your oxygen, you will lose a lot more oxygen. So the chances of blacking out are higher. So it's really important to eat well, to sleep well, and to be able to relax your nervous system. We have a huge emphasis on breathing. Breathing is number one primary element in freediving because it has the ability of reset your nervous system, of controlling it, of bringing your heart. If I do some breathing exercises, normally I have a heart resting rate about 55 beats per minute. I can bring it down to 35 beats per minute.
Wow. That's you weren't always like that. That's with practice over time.
It's with practice and breathing methodologies. So yeah.
Cool. I mean, you had the breathing exercise in the middle of the broadcast, and I love that so much because, I mean, any of our kids, if you did this at home, if you did this in your classroom, like you feel better, you feel happier, you feel calmer, and that effect happens in a few breaths. And that's my wife's a yoga instructor, so I'm used to sort of thinking this way about breath. But if you've never done that, practice breathing at home, practice learning how to breathe in a more effective way. It really does change you. It's really wonderful.
It's number one life hacking. Yeah.
Simona, early in the broadcast too, you were going down, and I noticed that you had a cable on you. So one of our kids had to ask, "What's with the cable? Why are you attached to that long thing?" I think
so. That cable is called a lanyard. I like to call it a leash, although my friends will laugh at me. But it's kind of our safety measure. So the big cable is we go up and down, and it has an end, right? So there's a bottom plate. So no matter, like if we've announced 90 meters, there's no way that we can get to 100 meters, right? So that's our stopping point. We have the lanyard so that if there is really strong current and I dive down without goggles, without mask, so I cannot see anything. I just have water sliding down my face. And everything is slightly blurred. I mean, I have the line. I can see the line for sure. But when it's pitch black in the lake, I have a torch, and it's just enough for me to follow the cable. So it's really important for us to have a safety line, so the lanyard. And if for any reason, we need to bring the cable back up, that's our safety net, let's say.
Yeah. You talked about the linkage between ocean-going exploration and space exploration, and one of the things that I always like to harp on for our kids is the amount of technology and preparation that goes into making sure people are safe. And it's pretty much universal. If people are going to the Arctic, if they're going on deep-sea expeditions and submarines, if they're freediving, if they're astronauts, there's endless hours of training before you're doing this in a sort of a competition or tangible way in sort of the case of astronauts. And I think that's really important, is that in potentially dangerous situations or challenging situations, a lot of thought goes into this, and it's usually huge teams of people that are working to make sure people are doing this in a safe way. So
you see me going down by myself, but actually there's a whole team of people organizing competitions, safety team. But generally, the rule number one in freediving is never freedive alone. So always be at least two people one watching from the surface and then diving down with you to meet you at some point, as you saw in the video, so that you can check each other out. And I mean, I would never advise anyone to just try by their own. So if you decide to go free diving, just go to a center. It might be a little early for you, but I've known kids at like 8 years old diving to 35 meters. That's in Dahab. So it's definitely possible. There's some free diving centers that offer free diving for children. And yeah, it's so much fun. So
you are a master of anticipating the questions that have been asked and segueing it so beautifully. So one of the first questions is, so for people that want to get their start, if you were to if we're not near a free diving center, we want to get a start, I'm a kid, I want to get a beginning in this, what would you recommend? Is it breathing exercises? Is it swimming? Is it a mix of both? Is it talking to someone?
Pool is the easiest way because it's quite spread out. If you guys are in Canada, get in touch with me because I'll be able to put you in touch with some Canadian record holder that will then address you to the closest free diving center. If you're elsewhere, also get in touch with me. I'll be happy to just pinpoint to where the closest. But pool is a great place to start because you start by holding your breath and understanding that it's the same principle, just applied to the lines of a pool. So you go back and forth for many different lines, basically. But feel free to reach out. I'm very accessible. So.
I love that you say this, and this is something that we have a lot of our programs, and it's just amazing because, again, a lot of kids are like, oh, these cool people are like totally inaccessible, and everyone comes on and they're like, yeah, talk to me and I'll put you in touch with this person. I mean, most people are really willing and excited to share their expertise, their passion, their knowledge. So kids, do take her up on that. She had some contact info at the end, freedivingzone.com, so lots to explore and discover there. And if you're ever keen on this, reach out to Simona directly and tell her that you watch the broadcast. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
We've got time for one more question because time flies and you're having fun. And so is there a favorite place of yours to dive in the world? We always get questions like this. And are you going anywhere soon to dive that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I'm actually in Dominica. So I've had an amazing month in Dominica. Dominica is a little Caribbean island. And it's called, it's known as the nature island. So it's beautiful, like out of the water and inside of the water. And inside of the water, we've just went on a trip and we've seen sperm whales, we've seen dolphins, we've seen pilot whales. It's been beautiful and incredible. Another favorite place of mine is Madagascar. So much wildlife. And then Dahab, Egypt is kind of a second home. There's coral reef. It's incredible. So colorful, so many fish. And it's really like one of the last places on earth with such a variety of colors underwater. So I would definitely recommend you to go to Egypt at some point.
How cool is that? And thank you for highlighting this, because we have a lot of people with ocean stuff. They talk about Indonesia, Australia, whatever. So Egypt is a rare one for our kids, but has some incredible diving in that sea. So do check that out if you get the chance, classes. That was such a fun presentation. Simona, you can come back anytime you want.
Thank
we'd love to hear more of your adventures. And I will stress, all our kids, check out the ECOP series. There's more to come. There's been other broadcasts all in the last few months. So lots to explore and discover there. Freedivingzone.com to keep learning going. And if you want to share this one with your family and friends, it's on our YouTube channel and we'll be there forever. So you can check out all our amazing folks and Simona and highlight it to everyone when you're done this broadcast. Simona, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Training and everything. This is so much fun.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Have a wonderful day and